Hello, Namaste. Welcome back to another interesting topic of our English class. Guys, today we are going to discuss a very interesting and a symbolic poem. That is, When I Set Out for Lyonnesse, written by Thomas Hardy. And this poem talks about how our poet achieved satisfaction in his life and where he went to achieve that. And the major idea to write this poem was that the poet wanted to achieve satisfaction or happiness. And according to him, this happiness was a priceless. Yes, and our poet was an architect and was working as an apprentice. And one day he went to a mythical or an imaginary place called Lyonnesse. In that place, there was a church which was being restored or a renovation. And his job was to give a supervision to that renovation work. So this is the background of this poem. And actually this poem was divided into 3 stanzas. In the first stanza, the poet explains how his journey was or how he felt while he was going to that place. And in the second stanza, he explains his worries or his thoughts because he doesn't know what was going to happen. And in the third stanza, he explains his feelings or his emotions, his satisfactions. So that's the story. So shall we start? Yes. When I set out for Lyonnesse. So guys, I'll read this poem and give you a line by line explanation. What you people want to do is just go through the line and try to understand the poem, the summary of this poem. So before starting this poem, let's look the introductory part. I'll read that. As a young apprentice architect, apprentice, you all know what apprentice is. A person who is paid as a trainee is said to be apprentice. So our poet was an architect and he was working as an apprentice. And British poet and novelist Thomas Hardy once visited a parish to supervise the restoration of a church. I already told you. And in that place, he went to a place called Lyonnesse, and in that place there was a parish or a church, a small church, and his job was give a supervision to that renovation or restoration work. So British poet and novelist Thomas Hardy once visited a parish to supervise the restoration of a church. On his return from the parish, the people noticed 2 things about him. A new glow in his eyes. When he returned back, the people noticed 2 things in our Thomas Hardy. A new glow in his eyes and a crumpled piece of paper sticking out of his coat pocket. That paper, it is recorded in one of his biographies, contained the draft of a poem. You are going to read that very poem inspired by a visit to a place which the poet called Lyonnesse. And today we are going to read that poem. When I set out for Lyonnesse is that poem written by our Thomas Hardy. So let's look the first stanza. When I set out for Lyonnesse 100 miles away, the rain was on the spray and starlight lit my lonesomeness. When I set out for Lyonnesse 100 miles away. So when I set out for Lyonnesse, a poet says that when I set out, when I started journey for Lyonnesse, 100 miles away, it was situated 100 miles away from here. So when I started my journey, the rim was on the spray and starlight lit my lonesomeness. That 2 lines indicate the season. We can clearly know which season it was. Yes, it's a winter season. So it was winter season. The rim, R-I-M, it means frost, was on the spray, and starlight lit my lonesomeness. Lonesomeness, loneliness. Okay. And starlight, it was night. It was night. Starlight means it was a night time. Actually, the poet uses it. I told you, it's a symbolic poem. Here the poet uses a symbolic word here to indicate his hope. Starlight is that. Starlight. And starlight lit my lonesomeness. It's a symbolic word. It symbolizes his hope. And when I set out for Lyonnesse 100 miles away, it was situated 100 miles away from here. See, in that first stanza, you can see some of the rhyming words. You all know that away and spray, Lyonnesse and lonesomeness. These are the rhyming words used in this first stanza. So let's look the second stanza. Let's look the summary of the second stanza. I'll read that. What would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? No prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard guess. What would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? In the second stanza, he explains, our poet explains his thoughts, because he doesn't know what was going to happen. He doesn't know what was going to happen. So he shares his thoughts or his feelings. What would become something about to happen? Become means something about to happen. What would become at Lyonnesse? I don't know what would happen in that place, and while I should sojourn there. If I stay there, I don't know what will happen. Sojourn means stay. If I stay in that place, Lyonnesse, I don't know what was going to happen. What will happen there? No prophet durst declare. Prophet means, you all know prophet, a holy person who predicts future. Even not only the prophet, but also a wisest man doesn't know what was going to happen. So no prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard, and wizard means an intelligent person, guess what would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there. See, the first stanza and the second stanza also, two lines. The first two lines is repeating, and you all know that poetic device is the refrain. The poetic device is the refrain. The lines are repeating in the same stanza for improving its style or rhythm. It is said to be a refrain. So next looks at the third stanza. When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surmise, my radiance rare and fathomless. When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes. In the last stanza, he explains the changes. He explains his changes. So, see, when I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes, when I returned after my work, when I returned from that place, you people can see a magic. With magic in my eyes means change in my eyes. Magic is joy, his happiness. You can see the magic and the radiance. All these things indicates change or happiness, his joy. When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surmise. Surmise means thought. My radiance here, it's glow. My glow, rare and fathomless. It's depth. Depth can't be measured. He says that. So you people can't measure the depth. Depth can't be measured. So all marked with mute surmise, my radiance rare and fathomless. When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes. So this is a very beautiful and a symbolic poem. So guys, next let's look the summary of this poem. The poem When I Set Out for Lyonnesse, written by Thomas Hardy, comes from Hardy's memory of 3 days of his life. The poet is quite excited and happy about his trip to a parish in Lyonnesse for its restoration. Lyonnesse is a mythological lost land. The poet expresses contrasting moods in the first and last stanzas. While going, he is lonely and the night is cold and dark. Nobody could guess what had happened there. On the contrary, the poet was happy and had a magical radiance in his eyes when he returned from Lyonnesse. The poet uses a famous figures of speech, that is a refrain here. It is the repetition of one or more phrases or lines at the end of a stanza. It can also be an entire stanza that is repeated periodically throughout a poem, kind of like a chorus of a song. The refrain used in this poem is, "When I set out for Lyonnesse 100 miles away." These two lines are repeating in the first stanza. "And what would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there?" These two lines repeating in the second stanza. And the last stanza, "When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes." These two lines are repeating. Next one, alliteration. You all know what alliteration is. It is a repetition of consonant sounds. In this poem, poet effectively used the figures of speech alliteration. For example, what would. In that line, V sound is repeating. Then dost declare. D sound is repeating. Wisest wizard, again V sound. Then let my lonesomeness, L sound. Then magic in my eyes, M sound is repeating here. Then marked with mute, M sound. Then radiance, rare, R sound is repeating. So the poet effectively used the figures of speech alliteration in this poem. So guys, I hope you all understood this beautiful poem very well. So thank you guys. See you in the next class.